First contact with the impossible. The Galactic Concordat's Deep Space Monitoring Station 47 had stood sentinel over the outer rim for 3 centuries. Its quantum sensors were calibrated to detect the slightest perturbation in spacetime, watching for everything from rogue asteroids to unauthorized ships. Senior observer Caxlith had served here for 50 cycles, and in all that time, nothing had truly surprised her. Until today. Administrator, she called out, her crystalline appendages vibrating with tension. We have an anomaly in Sector 87 Beta. Administrator Velthor glided across the observatory deck, his atmospheric field shimming with concern. Define anomaly. Observer. A ship, Administrator. But Caxlith's sensor arrays twisted in confusion. The readings make no sense. It's moving at FTL speeds, but its energy signature is barely registering. According to our instruments, it's using less power than a mining shuttle. Velthor's field darkened with skepticism. Impossible. Check your calibrations. Already done, sir. 3 times. Caxlith brought up the holographic display. Look at the wake pattern. It's like nothing we've ever seen. The display showed the standard spacetime grid, but instead of the usual violent tears and ripples that accompanied FTL travel, this ship left behind what looked like gentle waves, almost like ripples in a pond. Registry identification, Velthor demanded. That's the other strange part, sir. They're broadcasting openly. It's a human vessel, the HSS Uller. The atmosphere in the monitoring station grew heavy with tension. Humans. Of course it would be humans. The youngest spacefaring species in the Concordat, and yet somehow always at the center of the most perplexing developments. Open a channel, Velthor ordered. The communication crystal hummed to life, and a hologram materialized in the center of the deck. A human female appeared, her dark skin contrasting with the white of her uniform. Silver pins on her collar marked her as a captain. This is Captain Maya Chen of the HSS Uller, she said, smiling with typical human informality. Beautiful day for a cruise through the cosmos, isn't it? Velthor's field pulsed with barely contained frustration. Captain Chen, your vessel is violating several fundamental laws of physics. Explain yourself. Violating? Chen's smile widened. Oh no, Administrator. We're just looking at them from a different angle. Have you ever noticed how quantum particles behave like waves when you're not looking at them directly? We simply applied that principle on a macro scale. Caxlith's sensors quivered. That's not possible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical if we were trying to force our way through spacetime. Chen agreed. But we're not forcing anything. We're riding the quantum waves that already exist. Think of it like surfing. Why waste energy fighting the ocean when you can use its own motion to carry you forward? Velthor's field crackled with disbelief. You expect us to believe humans have discovered a fundamentally new form of FTL travel. Your species has barely been in space for 3 centuries. 2 centuries, actually, Chen corrected cheerfully. And we didn't discover it so much as notice what was already there. Sometimes fresh eyes see things that older ones have learned to overlook. Would you like a closer look? We're conducting field tests, and additional observers are always welcome. Before Velthor could respond, new readings flashed across Caxlith's sensors. Administrator, 3 ships just dropped out of FTL in Sector 86 Alpha. Concordat military vessels. Ah, Chen's smile didn't waver. I'm guessing those are our escort to the nearest science station. We did expect this might happen. Happy to comply. Our chief engineer has been dying to show off her work to a proper peer review board anyway. As the military vessels approached, Caxlith couldn't help but notice how they tore through spacetime like battering rams, while the human ship seemed to dance between the stars. Their instruments might insist it was impossible, but the evidence was right in front of them. The humans had done it again. They'd looked at the fundamental laws of physics, laws that the Concordat had studied for millennia, and simply decided there must be a better way. Velthor's field had taken on the particular shade of resignation, familiar to any alien who dealt regularly with humans. Captain Chen, you will maintain your current position and prepare to be escorted to Deep Space Research Station 12. The Concordat Science Council will want to examine your surfing technique. Looking forward to it, Chen replied. Though I should warn you, understanding this might require unlearning some things you think you know about the universe. The cosmos has a sense of humor that way. As the communication ended, Caxlith turned all her sensors toward the human vessel, recording every detail. Something told her she was witnessing the beginning of a new era in space travel. Again. And somehow, it was the humans. It was always the humans. The symphony of particles. 6 months earlier, Dr. Lena Patel stood in her lab at the Quantum Propulsion Research Facility in orbit around Jupiter, staring at a holographic display that shouldn't exist. The quantum interference patterns before her defied everything she'd been taught about particle physics, yet there they were, dancing like sound waves in zero gravity. Run the simulation again, she commanded the lab's eye. And this time, overlay it with Baksh-Goldberg variations. Her colleagues had long since stopped questioning her peculiar methods. They couldn't argue with results, even if they didn't understand why she insisted on converting quantum data into musical patterns. As the familiar notes filled the lab, synchronized with the quantum interference display, Lena's eyes widened. There it is again, she whispered. Computer, isolate frequency pattern delta 7 and compare it to measure 23 of the Baksh piece. A hologram split, showing two nearly identical wave patterns. Where traditional physics saw random quantum fluctuations, Lena saw music. The universe wasn't chaos, it was a symphony. Dr. Patel. The lab's door slid open, revealing Admiral Sarah Chen, the same woman who would later captain the HSS Uller. The Oversight Committee is ready for your presentation. Lena's stomach tightened. Everything rode on this meeting. 3 years of research, billions in funding, and countless sleepless nights had led to this moment. She gathered her data tablets and followed the Admiral to the conference room. The Oversight Committee consisted of the usual mix: military officers, civilian scientists, and government officials. All skeptics, all waiting to be convinced that her quantum resonance drive wasn't just another failed attempt to revolutionize space travel. Ladies and gentlemen, Lena began, activating the room's holographic system. We've been approaching FTL travel wrong for decades. We've tried to force our way through space-time, like pushing through a wall. But what if space-time isn't a barrier at all? What if it's more like an ocean? The room filled with a 3D representation of quantum particles, their movements synchronized to a gentle melody. Every particle in the universe exists in a state of quantum superposition until observed. We've known this for centuries. But we never asked, what determines which state they collapse into? She gestured, and the display shifted to show two particles entangled across space. Watch what happens when we introduce a harmonic frequency that matches the natural resonance of spacetime itself. The particles began to move in perfect synchronization, creating a tunnel of stable spacetime between them. The accompanying music swelled, and the quantum patterns danced in response. The universe isn't random, Lena continued, her voice gaining confidence. It's playing a song. We just never learned to listen. Until now. Admiral Chen leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the display. You're saying we can use these harmonics for propulsion? Better than that, Lena smiled. We can use them to surf the quantum waves that already exist in spacetime. No need to break physics. We just need to dance with it. The head of the Oversight Committee, Dr. Marcus Wong, frowned. This is all very poetic, Dr. Patel, but where's your proof? Theory is one thing, but... Lena held up a small device no bigger than her palm. This is a prototype quantum resonator. Would you like to see what happens when we turn it on? Before anyone could respond, she activated the device. The air in the center of the conference room began to shimmer, and suddenly a coffee cup on the table lifted itself and moved smoothly across the surface, coming to rest in front of Dr. Wong. The room fell silent. That cup, Lena explained, just rode a quantum wave we created by matching the natural frequency of space-time in this room. Now imagine scaling this up to ship size. We wouldn't need massive engines or exotic matter, just the ability to listen to the universe's song and harmonize with it. Admiral Chen was the first to recover. How soon can we begin ship-scale tests? We already have, Lena replied, bringing up new data on the display. The prototype drive is installed on the HSS Uller. We've been running computer simulations for months. All we need now is approval for actual space trials. Dr. Wong studied the coffee cup with a mixture of disbelief and wonder. The energy readings from this demonstration, they're barely registering on our instruments. How is that possible? Because we're not creating energy, Lena explained. We're using what's already there. The universe is full of quantum fluctuations, little waves in the fabric of reality. We're just learning to ride them. The committee members exchanged glances. They'd all seen countless proposals for revolutionary propulsion systems, but none had ever come with a demonstration like this. Dr. Patel, Admiral Chen said finally, I believe you just changed everything we thought we knew about space travel. Lena smiled, thinking of all the sleepless nights spent converting quantum data into music, searching for patterns everyone else had missed. No, Admiral. We just finally learned to listen to what the universe has been trying to tell us all along. Dancing through the stars. The HSS Uller hung in space at the edge of the solar system, its quantum resonators humming with barely contained energy. In the ship's engine room, Dr. Lena Patel made final adjustments to her instruments while trying to ignore the swarm of butterflies in her stomach. Everything they'd worked for came down to this moment. All systems are synchronized, she reported, watching the quantum harmonics display pulse in perfect rhythm. We're as ready as we'll ever be. On the bridge, Captain Maya Chen sat in her command chair, outwardly projecting calm confidence while her heart raced with anticipation. The rest of the crew, a hand-picked team of Earth's finest engineers and scientists, waited at their stations. Begin recording, Chen ordered. This is Captain Maya Chen of the HSS Uller, commencing first long-range test of the quantum resonance drive. Dr. Patel, you have the con. Lena took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the resonator controls. Initiating quantum frequency scan. Looking for our wave to ride. The ship's sensors reached out, converting the quantum fluctuations of space-time into audible frequencies. A haunting melody filled the bridge, the sound of the universe itself breathing. There, Lena whispered, her trained ear catching the pattern she sought. Matching harmonics now. The Uller's quantum resonators began to pulse in sync with the cosmic frequency. Around the ship, space-time rippled like the surface of a pond. Power output at 2% of standard FTL engines, reported Lieutenant James Rodriguez from engineering. Quantum field is stable. Chen leaned forward. Take us out, Dr. Patel. Nice and easy. Lena adjusted the resonance pattern slightly, and the Uller began to move. Not with the violent thrust of conventional engines, but with a graceful glide that barely registered on the inertial dampeners. Speed increasing. Rodriguez called out. Passing 0.1 C, 0.5 C. We're approaching light speed, and power output is still minimal. The stars outside began to blur, but not in the usual way. Instead of the violent blue shift of forced FTL travel, the cosmos seemed to flow around them like a gentle stream. We're riding the wave, Lena announced, her voice tight with concentration. Approaching FTL transition point. Everyone on the bridge held their breath. This was the moment of truth, the point where conventional FTL drives required massive energy expenditure to tear a hole in space-time. The Uller sailed through smoothly as silk. FTL achieved. Rodriguez shouted, his professional demeanor cracking with excitement. Power output still at 2%. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Lena wasn't celebrating yet. Her eyes remained fixed on the quantum harmonics display. Captain, I'm detecting a larger quantum wave approaching. Like a cosmic swell. "Can we ride it?" Chen asked. A grin spread across Lena's face. "Let's find out." She adjusted the resonators, matching the new frequency. The Euler's speed suddenly doubled, then tripled as it caught the quantum wave. "This is incredible," Rodriguez breathed, watching his instruments. "We're moving at 3 times normal FTL speed, but our power consumption is actually dropping." The ship soared through space, riding the quantum currents like a surfer on a perfect wave. But then Lena noticed something odd in the harmonic patterns. "Captain," she called out, "I'm detecting unusual quantum interference ahead. It's like multiple waves converging." Before Chen could respond, the ship shuddered. The gentle melody of space-time became discordant, like an orchestra playing out of tune. "We're hitting quantum turbulence," Lena reported, her fingers dancing over the controls. "The waves are becoming chaotic." The Euler bucked and swayed as conflicting quantum frequencies battered its resonance field. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Can we pull out?" Chen demanded. "Negative," Lena replied, sweat beading on her forehead. "We're too deeply embedded in the wave pattern." But her eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "We don't need to fight it. Computer, overlay batch musical offering. Contrapunctus XIV." Complex musical patterns filled the engine room, and Lena began adjusting the quantum resonators to match not just one frequency, but many, weaving them together like Bach's intricate counterpoint. Gradually, the ship's movement smoothed out. Instead of fighting the chaotic quantum waves, it was dancing with them, turning their conflicting patterns into a complex but harmonious whole. "Quantum field stabilizing," Rodriguez reported, relief evident in his voice. "We're still at FTL, but now we're—" He paused, double-checking his readings. "We're actually surfing multiple quantum waves simultaneously." Chen turned to Lena, who was still conducting her symphony of quantum frequencies. "Dr. Patel, I believe you just invented a new form of space travel." "Again." "No, Captain," Lena replied, finally allowing herself to smile. "We just learned to appreciate that space travel isn't about power or force. It's about finding the right rhythm and learning to dance." As the Euler continued its journey, riding waves of quantum harmony through the cosmos, none of its crew could know that their breakthrough would soon be needed for far more than revolutionary space travel. The universe had more songs to teach them, some beautiful and some terrifying. The warning. The examination chamber at Deep Space Research Station 12 hummed with activity as Concordat scientists swarmed around the HSS Euler. Their crystalline bodies refracted light in complex patterns that reflected their intense curiosity and barely concealed agitation. Dr. Lena Patel stood beside Captain Chen, watching as Chief Researcher Valtix directed scanning beams through the ship's quantum resonators. The alien scientist's crystalline form pulsed with colors that Lena had learned indicated deep concentration. "Fascinating," Valtix chimed, their harmonic voice creating ripples in the chamber's atmosphere. "Your species has essentially created a quantum sensing organ for your ship. It doesn't just move through space-time. It feels it." "That's an interesting way to put it," Lena agreed. "We." A sudden alarm cut through the chamber, its harsh tone causing the crystalline scientists to vibrate in distress. Valtix's form shifted to a deep indigo, their species equivalent of pale with shock. "This cannot be," they whispered. "The quantum harmonics." Lena was already moving to the nearest console, her trained ear catching something wrong in the background frequencies of space-time. "These readings, they're like nothing I've seen before." The chamber's main display activated, showing a massive disturbance in the quantum field spreading across several sectors of space. But unlike the usual waves they'd learned to surf, this was more like a tear, a discordant screech in the universe's symphony. Admiral Xanthor, the station's commander, glided into the chamber, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. "We're detecting similar disturbances across 12 different sectors. The fabric of space-time itself appears to be unraveling." "Show me the harmonic patterns," Lena demanded, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. When the data appeared, she felt her blood run cold. This isn't random degradation. These are standing waves, building on each other, like feedback in an audio system, but with quantum fields. "Impossible," one of the Concordat scientists declared. "Quantum fields don't create feedback loops." "They didn't," Chen corrected, studying the patterns, "until we started punching holes in spacetime with conventional FTL drives." Dr. Patel, could our centuries of brute force FTL travel have caused this? Lena's fingers flew across the console, converting the quantum data into audio. The resulting sound made everyone in the chamber wince, a shrieking cacophony of dissonant frequencies. "Not just us," she said quietly. "Every spacefaring species has been doing it. Thousands of years of tearing through spacetime instead of working with it. We've been treating the universe like a wall to break through. And now," she gestured at the display, "now it's starting to break." Valtix's color shifted to a deep crimson. "The calculations are clear. These quantum feedback loops are growing exponentially. Within 6 standard months, they'll begin to affect normal space. Within a year, they could render FTL travel impossible. Within 5 years, they didn't need to finish. Everyone could see the projections. The tears would spread, disrupting the very fabric of spacetime. Entire solar systems could be cut off from each other. The galactic civilization they'd built would collapse. But your ship," Admiral Xanthor turned their sensors toward the Uller. "Your quantum resonance drive doesn't tear spacetime. It works with it, harmonizes with it. Could the principles be adapted?" Valtix asked, "Not just for travel, but for healing." Lena was already running simulations. "Maybe. If we could generate counter-frequencies, like noise-canceling headphones, but for quantum fields." She looked up at Chen. "Captain, remember how we handled that quantum turbulence during our test flight? Using multiple harmonized frequencies." Chen nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "You think we could do the same thing here? Create a harmony to counter the discord?" "It's possible," Lena said, "but we'd need more than one ship. The effect area is too large. We'd need a fleet." Admiral Xanthor finished. "A fleet of ships equipped with quantum resonance drives, all working in concert, like an orchestra." "Yes," Lena breathed. "Exactly like an orchestra, but we'd need to work fast. Converting enough ships, training enough crews, and we'd need to coordinate across species. The harmonics would have to be perfect." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Centuries of interstellar rivalry and diplomatic tension would have to be set aside. The galaxy's civilizations would have to learn to work together, to quite literally find harmony or face extinction. Admiral Xanthor's form shifted through a series of rapid color changes before settling on a determined bright blue. "I will contact the Concordat High Council immediately. Captain Chen, we'll need your ship's complete technical specifications." "Dr. Patel, it seems the galaxy needs to learn to dance." As the Admiral glided away, Chen turned to Lena. "When you first proposed using music theory to understand quantum mechanics, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Lena watched the display showing the growing quantum discord threatening their galaxy. "No," she admitted. "But then again, the universe has always been trying to teach us its song. Maybe it's time we all learn to listen." Beyond the impossible. 3 months later, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history gathered at the edge of the Carina sector. 500 ships, human, Concordat, and vessels from a dozen other species, hung in formation, their newly installed quantum resonators humming in preparation for what many considered impossible. On the bridge of the HSS Uller, now designated as the fleet's command ship, Captain Chen surveyed the tactical display with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Each ship showed up not as a traditional combat marker, but as an instrument in the greatest orchestra ever assembled. "Final system check complete," Dr. Lena Patel reported from her station, where banks of quantum harmonics displays surrounded her like a conductor's podium. All ships report their resonators are synchronized and ready. The largest quantum feedback tear had grown to encompass 3 star systems, its discordant frequencies threatening to rip apart the fabric of space-time itself. They would only get one chance at this. "Open fleet-wide channel," Chen ordered. When the communication crystal chimed ready, she took a deep breath. "This is Fleet Captain Chen. In a moment, we're going to attempt something that's never been done before. We're going to try to heal space-time itself. Dr. Patel will conduct our symphony. Trust in the harmony. Follow her lead." Chen out. She nodded to Lena, who stood before her quantum displays like a maestro before her orchestra. "The stage is yours, Doctor." Lena closed her eyes, letting the discordant scream of the quantum terror fill her consciousness. Then she began to move her hands, and 500 quantum resonators responded. The first wave came from the human ships, their resonators producing a deep, steady frequency that matched the fundamental harmonic of normal spacetime. The Concordat vessels joined next, their crystalline technology adding complex overtones that began to weave through the chaos. First harmonic established. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from engineering. "Quantum field is responding." One by one, the other species ships added their voices to the symphony. Each brought their own unique approach to the quantum resonance technology, creating layers of harmony that began to counter the feedback tear's discord. On the main viewer, the tear's angry red glow began to fade at its edges. But at its core, the quantum discord fought back, sending out waves of chaos that buffeted the fleet. "We're losing synchronization in Section 7. Someone shouted. "Hold formation," Chen ordered. "Dr. Patel." Lena's hands never stopped moving as she adjusted the quantum frequencies. "It's fighting us because we're still thinking like separate species, separate technologies. We need to go deeper. Everyone, switch to parallel frequency mode." Across the fleet, quantum resonators shifted their output. Instead of each species maintaining their own harmonic layer, the ships began to weave their frequencies together, creating entirely new patterns of resonance. "Like Bach's counterpoint," Lena whispered, each voice distinct but part of a greater whole. The tear's resistance began to falter as the new harmonics took hold. Where there had been chaos, order began to emerge. The discordant frequencies were drawn into the fleet's symphony, transformed from destruction into creation. "It's working." Valtix's voice chimed across the command channel. "The quantum field is stabilizing." Chen watched in amazement as the tear began to close, its angry red fading to the soft blue of normal spacetime. The universe's song was healing. "Final harmonic," Lena called out. "All ships, bring your resonators to full power. Let's finish this." 500 ships pulsed as one, their quantum resonators producing a final perfect chord that rippled through spacetime. The tear collapsed in on itself, leaving behind nothing but healthy, stable quantum fields. The bridge erupted in cheers as sensor readings confirmed their success. They had done it. They had healed a wound in spacetime itself. "Dr. Patel," Admiral Xanthor's voice carried across the command channel, their crystalline tones vibrating with emotion. "It seems we owe your species a great debt. You taught us not just a new way to travel through space, but a new way to understand the universe itself." Lena finally opened her eyes, exhausted but smiling. "No, Admiral. We all taught each other. Every species brought their own voice to the symphony. We just had to learn to sing together." "And now?" Chen asked, looking at the spot where the tear had been. "What do we do with this knowledge?" "Now," Lena said, watching the quantum harmonics displays show the healthy pulse of spacetime, "we keep learning the universe's song. There's so much more to discover, so many new harmonies to explore, and we'll do it together, as it should be." Admiral Xanthor's next words seemed to sum up everything. "It seems impossible" is just another word for something we haven't learned to understand yet. As the fleet began their journey home, the HSS Uller once again led the way, surfing the quantum waves with a grace that still defied conventional physics. But now they knew. The impossible wasn't a wall to break through. It was just the beginning of a new symphony, waiting to be heard by those willing to listen. The end.